Giannis is hurt. Ja's hurt. All of a sudden, the trade market is start shifting as the Chicago Bulls are also proving, and they're now above 500. This is the exact situation that AK may have been waiting on, and we could see the Bulls actually shift those rumors from being sellers to buyers at the trade deadline. But the question is this fool's gold before the deadline? We're breaking it all down today, plus the mailbag, right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So a lot of the players that have been rumored around the trade market have gotten injured. Morant, injured and out for a while. Giannis Antetokounmpo, injured and out for a while. Hell, Tre Jones, injured and out for 2 weeks, right? On top of other players that have been named, as far as being, names that could be traded around are now injured. And so how does that shift the trade market? Now, this isn't the world of 2K. You can still trade for a player while they're injured. Some people don't actually realize that, so I got to point that out. But I want to put that in is that this is all happening at the same time where the Chicago Bulls are also now a game above 500. They find themselves a half game back of the 7th and 8th seed, only 1.5 games back of a potential 6th seed. Now, the Bulls have a lot to do, and they have to sustain a level of play before we can say for sure of what they can do or how well they can play. But when you look at the Bulls play over the last 10 and 20 games, right? We're gonna break that down. Over the last 10 games, where the Chicago Bulls have gone 6-4, they have the third best offensive rating in the game of basketball. Now, keep in mind, Josh Giddey's only been back for 2 games. So that means that we've been doing that without Josh Giddey. Tre Jones is now out, right? And we're still missing Zach Collins, who's a really solid two-way player. The Bulls have slowly but surely gotten back to looking like the offense that they were looking like at the beginning of the season. We're second in true shooting percentage, third in effective field goal shooting percentage, fourth in assist percentage, sixth in turnover rate. We finally got those turnovers down, and 14th in rebounding, which isn't great. Oh, and by the way, the Bulls team that has always lacked at rim protection over that same stretch is the 6th best shot blocking team in the NBA over these last 10 games. On the season, we're 13th. But having Jalen Smith and Modest Buzelis in that starting lineup together, it has drastically improved. I told you guys a little while ago, in the minutes that Jalen and Modest are on the court, we are the third best shot blocking team in basketball in just those minutes, but the 6th best overall. And over the last 20 games, a lot of those things stay the same. We're 4th offensively over the last 20 games, 3rd in true shooting percentage, 1st in effective field goal shooting percentage, 2nd in assists, 7th in turnover percentage, 9th in rebounding, and we're the best defensive rebounding team in the game of basketball over that stretch. What does that all say, right? There is something to be said. And I know that there are some fans out there that think that it's a legitimately not a real thing, but when this Bulls team is closer to healthy, we at least offensively have shown ourselves to be able to be one of the best teams in the league. Now, the defense is still a problem. Over the last 10 and 20 games, we still are the 21st ranked defense in the league. We're 22nd in the season, so that really hasn't changed that much. But that enters us into the situation that we started talking about. That is why that if the Bulls do decide to shift their mindset to be buyers at the trade deadline, meaning that they go out and try to get Yves Missi, meaning they go out and try to get a Day'Ron Sharpe, meaning that they go out and try to find some more frontline defense for themselves, I think that this is a perfect situation that AK can try to evaluate this team with a defensive-minded center that they've needed. Right now, Vooch is still going to be here. He's still going to play some minutes. But if you move Jalen if you keep Jalen into the starting lineup, and then Zach Collins, and then whoever else you bring in, not only that gives you more flexibility in having a defensive-minded center here to where maybe you don't pay the Zach Collins the $10, $12 million he's probably likely to try to command on the free agent market, but it gets you a version of that. Then you can still, I've told you guys this before, especially for all the fans that are big tanking fans, the best centers that actually fit what the Bulls need in the draft are going to go later in the draft. We're talking about they can legitimately go from 15th below, right? And so the Bulls right now, who are slated to have the 14th overall pick in this draft, they can be in a realistic world in which they can just take the best center there, and even if it looks out as early, or they can legitimately trade back in a situation scenario, or if they do end up getting the Portland pick, that's where they can go higher upside with their own pick, and maybe they can go a higher floor with one of the centers that are going to go later in this draft. The center out of Duke is one guy. The center out of Michigan is another guy that I really like. The center out of Kentucky. Like, these are guys that can legitimately help the Chicago Bulls. You look at Malachi Marino, the center out of Kentucky, 7 feet, 250 pounds. He's averaging 2.6 blocks that he's per 36 minutes. I want to look at the per game numbers, not per 36, because per 36 can be a little misleading. He's still averaging 1.6 blocks per game. And he's doing that really well. 7.6 rebounds on a really good rebounding team. Also, like, I like that. I like what he can possibly bring to this team. So the Bulls are in a world where AK can legitimately, and again, this is me saying this is something I could absolutely see AK doing, is saying, hey, let's try to add a defensive-minded big at the trade deadline. We do that, and then we have better health after the trade deadline. If we go on another run like we did after the All-Star break last year, where we went 22-5, that can legitimately be what pushes you into the actual playoffs, or even gives you a stronger chance to actually come out of the play-in, even if you're still in that, and actually make the playoffs this year. We already talked about on yesterday's episode why getting to the playoffs for this young team actually makes a lot bigger of a difference, despite what happened the last time we made the playoffs. And there was somebody that left the comment was like, well, Vooch is still getting a lot of shots on this team, so that means that it wouldn't mean. No, that's stupid. The young players on this team are still in a different, like, every young team is still going to have a veteran that gets shots, right? That's actually what you want. It's just that our veterans, Nikola Vucevic, who's overall been kind of bad for the Chicago Bulls, right? But this is the situation where AK can finally try to use it as a proof of concept. Now, I know this isn't going to make a lot of Bulls fans happy. There's some Bulls fans that want to see a trade just to see a trade because it makes them feel, well, got a voicemail, and I'll leave that a little bit, right? But the Bulls are back above 500. They're actually playing above 500 basketball. And the thing that I've told you guys before, when this team is close to healthy, they've always been an above 500 team when they're close to healthy. The run last year, the start of this season, and even this season, they weren't healthy at the start of it. So even once you finally started getting players back healthy, you went 5-2 over that stretch when you were fully healthy. So it's those type of things that you look at with this team, and you're just like, there is something here. And there is something to where, the people, now that doesn't still mean that if you know you're not going to re-sign Coby, you still should move him. I'm not saying that I want to see Coby White moved overall, but if you know for whatever reason you're not going to pay Coby White that money, you should still move him. I mean, just not risk losing the asset for nothing, right? But if this team is at the place where they want to truly evaluate most of what they have and go out and make a strategic move for either Day'Ron Sharpe, Yves Missi, whoever it is, right, to add some more frontline defense to this team, I think it does a lot of wonders for this team. Now, of course, you still have the options of trading Tre Jones like Minnesota and getting Juan Berenger, who doesn't necessarily project to bring you a lot of what you need right now, but you can develop that guy, right? And there's those little intricacies that are in this thing for this team that this trade deadline has already shifted. Like I said, with the players that are out injured, that were supposed to be big names in this, it's trade deadline shifted. I don't know if it shifted in favor of the Bulls getting those guys, or if, not Giannis and Ja, but getting the guys that they want, or because Giannis now is going to be out throughout the trade deadline, Ja's going to be out until after the trade deadline. If those teams that could be interested in those guys, while they may want to hold on to their chips and make a move for them in the offseason, they can maybe look at some of those smaller moves, the same type of moves that AK would then be looking at, and then you have more people committing and trying to fight over that, right? So that's what we got to see what happens with this team. And I know that's not something that a lot of Bulls fans like to hear. You want to hear, oh, the Bulls are going to trade for X player. They're gonna do this. They're gonna go out and get this guy. Where the more realistic option is find out what the real cost of Yves Missi, right? We've heard about the relative cost of Yves Missi, but what the actual cost for Yves Missi is, right? And what that's going to be for him. 6'11", 235 pounds. Day'Ron Sharpe is another guy that's out there as well, right? So we'll see. Now, we have heard that the Pelicans are maybe exploring a deal that could send Yves Missi to Indiana in exchange for Ben Mathurin, which, we'll see. Right now, the report is that the Pacers are looking for more than just Missi back in that. So that could leave the Bulls back to being in a position to try to get him. But, maybe that's more of an uphill battle for the Bulls now, admittedly, right? So we'll see what the Bulls end up doing, how aggressive AK wants to be. But this recent winning by the Bulls and the teams that they're doing it against as well, if I know AK as well as I think I know him, right? Again, I don't know him personally, but based off what he's done in the past, I can completely see this being a trade deadline where AK looks at it and says, listen, we have an opportunity here to really, really evaluate, right? Really give this team a chance. They've been missing frontline defense. Let's add that, and let's see what we can do. The Bulls right now in the season, they are above 500 facing off against winning teams, and they're finally at 500 against below 500 teams, meaning that, hey, they're either at 500 or above 500 in both against winning teams and losing teams. And while this is going to be a tough stretch for the Bulls with them having one of the most difficult schedules remaining in the league, this could be the time where you want to evaluate. Maybe that's the environment you really want to evaluate them in. They then say, hey, is this Jalen and Modest thing, is this legit, right? And by the way, we got to talk about Modest's on-ball. Have you seen what Modest has done on-ball defensively lately? Against Jaylen Brown last night, he forced him into bad shots several times or forced him to give up the ball. Against Naz Reid at times in the game before that, he also did the same thing to Naz Reid. Modest, slowly but surely, is showing more and more of that potential to become a two-way player that he even said that he wanted to be. And, you know, it's been a trial through fire to get there, but as Modest continues to grow and understands those assignments, hey, the sky's the limit for that. So there's a couple of things here leading to I want to see Jalen and Modest more. I know that their team's going to be calling on Jalen. We've heard those rumors, all those type of things. I want to see Jalen and Modest more because the numbers with those guys on the court together are just promising as hell, and they continue to be that for this Bulls team. It'd be different if it was a small flash in the pan. We're talking about these guys have played almost 400 minutes together, and in that, 340 minutes. We are plus 69, a net rating of plus 71, an offensive rating of almost 124, and a defensive rating of 111.5 in the minutes where Jalen and Modest are on the floor together. That's what you want to start seeing, right? You need to find him with Modest moving to the three, and then hopefully eventually you hope that you can develop Noah Essinga to be that long-term four next to Modest Buzelis, but it's super promising. And with Jalen Smith also being a young player himself, hey, I would love to keep exploring that. That's something you want to keep exploring, to see those minutes and how that grows together and how even Jalen and Vooch have developed some chemistry. It's still better. They're still a net negative when they're on the court together, but I'd love to see more of Zach Collins in that once he gets healthy. But, hey, we'll see what this Bulls team is because right now the Bulls are in one of the most promising stretches of this NBA season for them, and let's see what they're going to do with it. But it is Saturday. It means it is mailbag day, or Sunday. It's Sunday. I lost a day. It is mailbag day. Let's go ahead and get into these voicemails, man. This one's from Corn.
What's the good word, King Drip? It's your brother Corn. Let's get right into this real shit right now. Trade deadline coming, right? This is when everybody is on edge, walking on eggshells, especially our fan base. What I want to happen, it's not going to be favorable for everybody. Because I know everybody wants to trade for Zion. They want to trade for this. They want to trade with the Wolves. They just want to trade just to trade. But if they're smart trades, they're smart trades. But we've seen this team around this time. Now listen, let me cook a little bit with this. We've seen this team around this time get healthy and get better. So I'm going to say this. Don't trade. I know everybody's going crazy. What you mean, Corey? We got to make a trade. We need to trade somebody, anybody. Something got to shake. We got to shake this. I understand. I get where you're coming from. But then get where I'm coming from. When this team is fully healthy, see, we still haven't even really seen Tre Jones and Ayo on the same court at the same time, really, right? We still haven't seen a bunch of rotations that I believe that this team that can go 10, 11 deep. And I want to see that. I want to finally see Coby in the playoff. Everybody know how I feel about it. If Coby get traded, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be all because y'all know how I feel about it. But I want to have my feelings and how I see him play basketball justified. It won't be justified in this situation if we just trade him. The player that I think he is, I got to see it all the way through. So let's not trade. Let's keep this team. Let's see what they can do. Let's see how far they can go when they're healthy. And I believe that we are a 5th and 6th team, and we'd be a very dangerous team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs if we're fully healthy, if we're on our shit. I believe we're right in the middle of that team that first starts 6-0. I believe we're around that team right there. I believe in this, man. And let's just see. If he don't make no moves, which I assume that he's not, I don't think AK is not making.
Some Bulls fans, they want to see a trade made just to see a trade made. Like, that's just where they are. They just want to see a trade made just to be made. And to a degree, I understand it, right? Because there's so much stagnation during the DeMar DeRozan, Levine time, especially after the Lonzo trade, where this team just didn't do anything at the trade deadline. So I understand it's like, hey, just do something. But at the same time, you want to make the right move. And to your point, I can see AK wanting to give this team a chance, fully healthy, and then really see what they do. Maybe make a smaller move to where you're not sending out a huge asset or something, and then seeing what you can do with that. I would love to see what that would look like, and AK probably could too as well. So, I get it where some people stand with just wanting to see the Bulls make a trade, but at the same time, just making a trade for the sake of saying you made a trade rarely ever is the best thing for your team. Now, if you see a trade out there that legitimately does something for you, cool, make that. But don't make a trade just to say, see, haha, we did it, and then it ends up being something that really doesn't do anything for you. And we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from A1.
What's good, Hayes? It's A1. I think I had like a epiphany after watching Rose jersey go up there. I looked at that game, then it made me think back at that Timberwolves game, and I was just seeing like how good we can like really be, like right now, without even no changes right now. And when we had that like 3-minute drought with the Timberwolves, and I'm like, dang, adjustment, do something. Like, then they just came out of it. At this point, you can't blame the kids if they bad. You gotta go blame the parents sometimes. So I'm looking at coaching, because even though Vooch, everybody want Vooch gone, ain't nothing out there better than Vooch right now that we can get right there. With Smith right there next to him, that's all right. We can hide a little of that poor defense, and it is going to make Vooch play better. So if it ain't really nothing better out there, don't trade nothing, man. Let's just keep this until we can get something. Like, I would have been okay with trading Coby White for a decent center or something, but now I'm looking at it like it ain't one out there really right now, I don't think. So I ain't even tripping no more if they don't trade nothing. I'd rather them get rid of some coaching or something. Like, or change the coaching. But even though Billy been kind of coaching, I see him arguing with refs now and all that, that's cool. So, I don't know, maybe something change internally, we can ride with it, but like right now, I don't even want to trade nobody right now, Joe. I'm cool with it. We could just let it run, wait till the other big homie get back, and we might be even decent. Wait till Kobe get all the way decent, we might be decent. Like, I'm cool right now. I think we should just keep it like this. Forget it. Unless we ain't got to give up nothing. Like that trade, like a little, what's the name? The little pick for Missy or something like that. And we got some space to do it. Something like that. But other than that, I'm good, Joe. We could just keep it. What you think?
It's not about finding something better than Vooch's numbers. It's about finding a player that brings something that you're missing to this team, right? So, like, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the argument that you're making, but some people be like, yeah, you're not going to find another center that averages 16 points and 9 rebounds. It's like, yeah, but if we could find a player that actually gives up less points on defense than Vooch, that actually rebounds, actually patrols the paint, is a better on-ball defender and pick and roll as well, where you don't have to play him in drop coverage, there's a net positive in that, right? So, but to your point, again, if the deal's not out there, don't try to force it, right? Don't make a trade like with the last voicemail just for the sake of saying you made a trade. Do something that actually does something for your team. And that doesn't have to just be a superstar level trade. It can be a smaller trade that actually brings in a dynamic that you're missing to this team. And the sum of that with what you already have could be greater than what you do before. So it's about making strategic and thoughtful trades, not just about making a trade to make one. And that's where some Bulls fans would have this team at. And then we left stuck ass out and then they'd be the first ones complaining about that being a thing, right? So, that's I think we got to survey it, and it takes a level of patience, but also forethought as well. And so we'll see if AK can do that. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from the 954.
Hello, hey. So, everyday listener, watch the video. Anyways, I'm from Miami, down here, Miami Heat Nation, but Bulls fan forever. You mentioned in the video today that something about some people still hating on Josh. I just trying to make sense out of that. Maybe they didn't like the trade with Russo, which it makes no sense to me because let's say the trade never happened and we would have Caruso as good as he was. He cannot down the things that Josh is doing over here. He cannot down almost a triple-double every game. He cannot down that. He just highly talented defender, but he cannot do the same numbers as Josh. Something else I can think about, maybe it's because Josh don't fit the narrative of what a star should look like. You look at him, he looks like his hair all crazy and Australian guy, edit that. Anyway, just want to know what you thought about that, even though it might be a little bit controversial. And keep the good work. You're one of my favorite channels. Thank you.
First, thank you for saying that CBC is one of your favorite channels. I hope that you keep enjoying the show. That's what we strive for here, is to keep putting out really, really good content, some of the best Bulls content you'll find. But the Bulls got exactly what they wanted out of the Caruso trade. And this isn't about your voicemail. I appreciate it, but I'm so tired of the people that still want to, they won the trade, meaning, and both teams could win. There is a world in which both teams can win the trade. The Thunder got exactly what they wanted in Alex Caruso and what he brought to the team, and the Bulls got it. And keep in mind, the OKC Thunder also traded to help. They wanted to see better for Josh Giddey. The role that best fit Josh Giddey wasn't available on that team. The Bulls had that role, and he's thriving in that role. He was the only player to check in yesterday that didn't score in double figures, but he's thriving in that role when you look at his numbers over the season. So, yeah, the Bulls got exactly what they wanted. They wanted a point guard that could run the system, that can help the players that they have on the team, because they had players that can't create their own shot, and they got a guy that can average a near triple-double, and he's proven that this year. So, yeah, I think both teams won that trade. The Bulls got exactly what they wanted. People who still whine about it, oh, my God, we traded Caruso, we didn't get a pick back. Yeah, you weren't going to get a great pick back for it regardless. I get it, and I understand wanting a pick back in that trade with all the picks that the Thunders have, but at the end of the day, what the trade that actually did happen, right? Not the better, we can all sit there and think of a better version of the trade that is more leaning towards the Bulls, but at the end of the day, the trade that happened, there's undoubtedly helped the Chicago Bulls, and the Bulls got a hell of a talent out of it in Josh Giddey, period. That's just the reality of it. But all right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Vaughn.
Hey, what's good, Hayes? This is Vaughn again, man. Just again, really commending the work you do. Again, I'm not sucking up because you and me had disagreements. I've come to appreciate your perspective more. I don't agree with everything, and nor should I. I still worry about this team in a 7-game, 5-game series. I think that's very different than playing a team on an isolated night on an 82-game season. Where, that other team can really hone in and focus you. I think even if we win the play-in game, I still don't see us beating. We're still going to be a low seed, more than likely. Like I said, if we get to 6, we might have a chance, but I'm thinking the big part about this year is, man, when Tatum and Halliburton get back, it's not going to get easier. And this is one of those years where we weren't really set up to make a move, but if we were, it would have been best, because it's just, the East, it does suck, but it's not going to suck as bad next year. Like I said, we're not beating Detroit in the series if we're the AC. We're not beating whoever the 2 seed ends up being, probably the Knicks. So, again, I think that's where we differ a little. I'm coming around on Modest for sure with his shot. I think as his handle gets better, if he gets stronger, I'm still not thinking he can be a 2 option. Or a 1 for sure, maybe a 2, but he's definitely a better two-way player than I was giving him credit for. I've always been a Coby White fan. You've never heard me dog him. I'm with you there. I love the Jalen Smith, him starting. And, actually, like I said, I mean, they're going to have to move on from Vooch, even though Vooch is balling. I want a rim runner. I don't want a Zubac. To me, he's a lot like he's a better defender, obviously, than Vooch and plays harder, but he's too slow. Like, he's not, really doing the modern day NBA. To me, he'd be more of a backup center. Hartenstein would probably be more the type that I like, but even for all the money he makes, I mean, what kind of impact he doesn't make a huge impact. He doesn't justify his contract. So anyway, man, keep up the tremendous work. I'm going to keep calling. Like I said, we're not on the same page as far as how good this team can be, but maybe they'll change my mind. The double bigs is great, and then when Collins comes back, they'll really be able to execute the double bigs. I really want them to get rid of Herta and try to get something for his expiring. Like I said, if we could somehow get rid of some picks and a Herta for Zion, I'm all in. I'll holler at you later. Peace.
See, Von, this is where I always sometimes, bro, it's like you be getting there and then you say something to say that Zubac is a backup center. He's one of the best defensive centers in the league. Just because, I sometimes, Von, I think you feel like if you can point out a flaw with a player, it means to you that they're a backup. Like, you're not going to find a perfect center that brings everything. If you can, that center's probably worth $40 million on the market. If you find the perfect center that has no flaws. Even with Zubac being slower, as you mentioned, guess what? He's still one of the best defensive bigs in the league at rim protection. Not only, and keep in mind, rim protection isn't just shot blocking. It's the defense that you have in the paint that keeps player from getting to the rim. Zubac is one of the best at that. He's not too old. He doesn't fit the Bulls, age range. After, what is he, 28 years old, I think. But to say that, he's a backup. Come on, Von. Sometimes I wonder how much basketball do you watch of these other teams, and how much do you just look at a stat sheet and then say, because he's not top 10 in this, that means he's a backup. Zubac is a damn good center, and it'd be great for what this team needs specifically as far as defensively from a center. Zubac would bring so much of that. Now, I don't know if it's worth giving up Coby to give that, which was the trade rumors, but I don't know, man. Some of the things that you say sometimes, I don't know if you watch basketball for what you're seeing, or if you watch basketball to be like, this is just what a player, or are you looking at the stat sheet just to see what a player lacks? And that's just an honest conversation. I'm not trying to judge you for it, but this is the real world. This isn't 2K. This isn't the imagination that we can come up with. Every player has flaws. Every player has things that you're going to have to try to overcome. There's not a perfect center out there for the Bulls. Even if Jalen Duren, still not perfect because of what you'd have to pay him. You'd have to definitely overpay him to get him from Detroit. It's just, it's not a perfect world. It's just not that. We can't go in and build us the perfect center that we have in our mind. We have to get a center that brings some of the things that we have, and then that's the point of roster construction. Then with what you do with other spots on your roster, you try to find things that can help overcome the limitations of the players. That's just the reality of it. But this world that you have in which this guy's a backup, this guy's fourth or fifth on this, come on. I don't know what your aim is there personally, but hey, it is what it is. But that's going to do it for today's episode, y'all. You guys know I love you so much. Do the Bulls stand pat or make a push at the trade deadline? Do you capitalize on the desperation around the league, or do you pivot towards long-term flexibility, which I think that's already what we did. We're in the era of trying to benefit from the flexibility that we been into the roster. But drop your thoughts down below. I read every single comment, even if I don't respond. But make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell if you never want to miss an episode of Chicago Bulls Central. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. And like I like to end every episode, love you guys. Go Bulls. See you ready for Can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.